the funniest thing is like when I said they were Eastern, herbs, they were like, what?
Hmm.
They were like, what? Eastern herbs for pets? How? I've never heard it. And they never heard of it because no one had ever, no one here in the
Yeah.
United States had never done it. But now we have people that are in their wellness journey. And this just happened this last month, which is so beautiful. 60.
Wow.
Where do you have a company that has someone that's on their 60th order? And I'm like, you know what? We should talk to the concierge of the hotel.
Yeah.
And I talked to the concierge of the hotel, and he goes, and I showed him this, and he goes, oh my God, we've been looking for something to put into our gift baskets for the pet parents that come to our hotel.
Hey guys, before I start the podcast, a quick introduction. My name is Varnit and I'm the founder of Pet Excel Marketing. Pet Excel Marketing is a marketing agency that specifically works with pet businesses. Over the years, we have worked with pet food brand, pet relocation businesses, pet SaaS companies, pet clothing brand, cat food businesses, dog grooming services, and many other product and service-based pet businesses globally. Our services includes everything from creating graphics to running your ad campaign. Not only that, we have built amazing websites and apps for pet businesses. So if you have a pet business and would like us to help grow it, click on the first link in the description to book a call with our team. Now enjoy the podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Pet Brand Podcast, where we dive deep into stories behind the most inspiring and innovative pet brands in the world. I'm your host Varnit, and I sit down with founders, CEOs, and visionaries from the pet industry to uncover how they build their brand, the challenges they overcome, and the lessons they learned along the way. So you can apply those insights into your own pet business. So today I'm thrilled to be joined by Michael Habicht, the co-founder and CEO and creative director of Healthy Paws Herbal Labs, a brand that's redefining pet wellness through the power of holistic Eastern herbal medicine. Michael's background is unlike most in the pet space. He's an accomplished artist and designer who turned his creative passion into a mission to help pets heal naturally. So, in this conversation, we will explore the story behind Healthy Paws Herbal Labs, how art and wellness came together to create a purpose driven brand, and the powerful impact of natural solutions on the lives of pets and their families. Michael, thank you so much for being a part of Prevent Podcast.
Well, thank you so much. And that what an introduction. You nailed it. I loved it. That was
Okay.
great. That was a great introduction.
Right.
I'm like, I want him to send that to me so I could post it on the wall for other people to read.
Yeah, so that's a good start. Yeah. So Michael, your
Yeah.
journey into the pet wellness world is definitely it's truly inspiring. Like many founders come from science or veterinary medicine, but you brought like a fresh and artistic perspective into it, into industry rooted in health. So what inspired you to create Healthy Paws Herbal Labs, and like how did your background in art and design shape the brand foundation as well?
It's really a beautiful story. Being a designer here in Los Angeles, California, a celebrity designer in Beverly Hills.
Wow.
One of my assistants called me up one day and said, hey, Michael, I'm working with this group that's doing this pet, rescue event, and it's a big celebrity event in Malibu. And there's a lot of people involved, but there's nobody creative involved, and they really don't know how to put the pieces together, and they're a little lost. So she goes, they would, I told them about you and they would love to meet with you. Can you meet with them? I'm like, sure, I can meet with them. And they're like, okay, tomorrow at 10 a.m. And I'm like, tomorrow? I'm like, okay. So I went to this conference room for the meeting, and there was like 30 people sitting around this table. And I was first thing to my head, it was like, wow, there's a lot of chefs in this kitchen. I'm like, there's a lot of personalities. Cause usually when you're doing an event, you want to work with one or two people so that it's not so opinionated by so many people. But it was a pet's wellness, and it was for pets rescue, and it was just kind of like, I'm like, okay, let's see what they have here. And it ended up where I looked up at the end of the table and I saw this young girl, and I'm like, Whitney? She's like, Michael. And it happened to be one of my client's daughters from 15 years previously.
Okay.
And I had not seen her for 15 years. And she was a little girl the last time I saw her. And so we got up, we hugged, and we're like, okay, I'm supposed to be here. The universe wants me here. I'm supposed to be here.
Wow.
So the big sponsor of the event was called Fifi and Romeo, and she was a designer to Legally Blonde, which was a TV show in the 80s. And
Okay.
Reese Witherspoon was dressed up in her outfit and had a dog carrier, and the dog was all dressed up in all these outfits. And so she was kind of like the first, I think she was the OG that started the whole pet carrier and the clothes for the
Wow.
dogs
Wow.
way back in the 80s. And it was pretty beautiful to meet her. And her
Mm.
name was Yana of Fifi and Romeo. So I decided I'd stylize this whole event, talking about my art. How does it fit into it? And,
Mm.
where does that come into the whole big picture? So I stylized the whole event after her store, and it was very French Parisian feeling. So it was like everything was very French. I had an Eiffel Tower, Arc of Triumph, and everything that people can walk underneath. And I'm just that old. I'm kind of like that out of the box thinker. So it wasn't like a small Eiffel Tower. It was a 40-foot Eiffel Tower. It was an Arc of Triumph that you can actually walk through
Okay.
on your way to the event, and people loved it.
Yeah.
But one of the most incredible things that came out of it was that I kept having these conversations, and this was back in the year 2005.
Wow.
So this is where my journey started, was back in 2005. And one of the conversations I kept having with pet parents that were there at the rescue, they were just like, God, I take my pet to the vet. It's narcotics, it's chemicals, it's all steroids. I wish there was something natural. And I'm thinking, God, I'm a native to California. I've lived here my whole life. I know so many people in the city. I had to know somebody. And back in 2005, I started looking and I could not find anybody, because I thought I would find somebody and bring them into my next event.
Yeah.
And what I was looking for, and from what I understood from all the pet parents, was they were looking for something for every common ailment that the pets have, throughout their lifetime. And, there was a little of this, a little of that, but there was never a complete line of formulas for anyone out there. So I kept looking.
Yeah.
And I think somewhere during that time, my looking kind of dipped a little bit. And then in 2016, Bravo, the network Bravo, called me and asked me
Yeah.
if I'd be on The Housewives with Lisa Vanderpump and launch her foundation.
Mm.
So I'm like, yes, I'll do that. So I designed the event on The
Wow.
Housewives. I was on The Housewives, and there I was with Lisa Vanderpump, and we're talking on The Housewives, and she's launching her foundation to save the pets from the Yulin Festival in China.
Yeah.
And this was in 2015,
Yeah.
16.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was at that event, once again, I kept hearing pet parents saying, God, I wish there was an alternative to pet wellness than just the vet. And we know the vet is like a key person in our toolbox that we need. And the vet is such an important person, but just every day, just like humans, everyday things we can do for ourselves. There's so many organic, holistic things that we can
Yeah.
do for ourselves, but there
Mm-hmm.
was nothing out there for pets.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, I looked at the CBD stuff that was going on, and that
Yeah.
just really didn't fit with me. Everybody kind of like said one thing fixes all, and it just wasn't, I wasn't looking for one thing to fix all. I was looking for something that was full line of like targeted, formulas that would actually work with pets. So
Yeah.
I continued my look, and it just happened to be that Lisa called me up. Her team called me up after we did the show, and she said, "Oh, we're doing this event in the park, and we'd love for you to be there since you're such a advocate for pets."
Yeah.
And by this time, I'm working with pet rescues. I'm doing events with them over and over and over. I'm donating my art to their auctions so they can auction off my
Wow.
art to raise money for pets. And
Mm.
so I've really become really involved with pet rescues at this time. And so I went to this event, and all of a sudden I came across this Chinese doctor, and he was a Chinese, a Chinese medicine doctor that was there in the park. And he had like three boxes. He had one for calming, it said calming, one said pain, and one said allergies. And I'm like, what's this? And it was my first introduction to Eastern medicine for pets.
Yeah.
I've heard Eastern medicine for humans, but I'd never heard it for pets before. And he was kind enough to give me a box of it and said, Hey, I know who you are. Here, give it to your rescues. And we gave it to our rescues, let them try it.
Wow.
And it was pretty brilliant, because my attention was not in that direction for Chinese medicine. And all of a sudden, you know, from there, I started looking up Chinese medicine, learning more about it. He was educating me and all that. And so that was kind of the birth of Healthy Paws Herbal Labs. And it was
Wow.
like, I'm like, wow, I want to go ahead and create a full line of it. Can we do a full line? And the
Hmm.
answer is yes. And so we created a full line of pet wellness, and that was kind of the beginning of it all. And,
Hmm.
today it's just has grown and just continues to grow. And the best part is that we're helping pets. And that was
Yeah.
my mission.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's your foundation basically.
Yeah.
Hmm. And when you first launched, like what do you think? Like what were some of the biggest challenges you faced entering this holistic pet wellness space?
I would say for sure the biggest challenge we had is like there's a couple of big shows here in the United States that we do is called one is called Super Zoo and the other one's
Yeah, yeah,
called Global.
yeah.
And Super Zoo's right in Las Vegas, which is not too far from us. So we decided we do Super Zoo and bring the packaging and and this is after I had designed everything, all the characters, all the packaging and being a designer once again, it's like I was born with this gift of design. It wasn't something I went to school for. I didn't go to an engineering class. I didn't go to a drafting class or animation class. It was
Yeah.
just, I was gifted this gift. So I created these really fun characters that were behind me. I designed all these and then I gave them names and I put them on the packages with different ailments and different, positions and all that. And so we decided we'd do Super Zoo and being the creative once again, here we are in this big, trade show with all these pet companies and pet food companies. And, when you go to one of those trade shows, you're
Hmm.
inundated with all these big designs and all this stuff. And here we're this brand new little guy in
Hmm.
this little 10 by 10 booth, but, I brought my design to the nth
Wow.
degree to that booth and people like were so gravitated to that booth that even the people at the exhibit who ran the exhibit came up to and they're going, God, everybody's just raving about the look of and design of your booth. They just love it. And it was friendly. It was like so fun. It was so cute. So we started like we picked up a few pet stores and all that and we started working with the pet stores. But the biggest challenge is like when we brought it into a pet store,
Yeah.
we would train the pet store on the product
Hmm.
and just give them a background of like what each product does. One was for calming, one was to support allergy, one
Yeah.
was to
Yeah.
support yeast. And so, but the funniest thing is like when I said they were Eastern, herbs, they were like, what? They
Hmm.
were like, what? Eastern herbs for pets? How I've never heard it. And they never heard of it because no one had ever, no one here in the
Yeah.
United States had never done it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Meanwhile, in the Ming Dynasty, let's go back hundreds of years. In the Ming Dynasty, they were giving their domestic pets Eastern wellness. They were given the same formulas that we're given today. Basically, maybe some changes along the way, but basically, it's the same exact herbs they were given their pets back then that we have in our formulas today.
Hmm.
So that was the biggest hurdle. And I came up with a solution to that. And I just kind of told the pet store, I'm like, okay, all you have to do, this is
Hmm.
a slow, process, is the first month to sell one product,
Yeah.
and so they're like, what? Just sell one product? We want to sell all the products. I'm like, no, 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 just aim at one product because you're going to have all these pet parents come in and go, Eastern medicine for pets. What? Everybody had that same expression. That was our
Yeah.
biggest hurdle that no one
Yeah.
had ever heard it before. So I told them, let's do one product. And so the first month they would sell one product, and sure enough, that person would come back and go, "Oh my God, I can't believe this. This actually worked. It's like better than what my doctor gives me with the
Wow.
steroids or whatever it might be, right?"
Hmm.
And and then I'm like, okay, so then the next month sell two products in the next month. And so in the next month the store that was the goal. Not to sell a lot, just two products. And what it did is it created an experience for the salesperson in the store
Hmm.
to hear the experience that the user had, the pet parents experience. And when they heard that, that was the magic right there. Because once they start to communicate about the power behind our formulas, they started selling our formulas. Every time someone came in with an issue or, their pet's having this problem or that problem, our their go-to was to our display with all our formulas. And it is today with our pet stores. I just talked to some girl a few days ago that they're doing this event and she goes, Michael, she goes, we just can't believe how well your formulas work. When
Wow.
a pet parent comes into our store, the first thing we do is we point them over to your display.
Wow.
And it's funny. This is a really cute side story, is that I I got a call from a lady that used to that was buying from that particular store, and the store had run out of her formula.
Okay.
And she was panicked, and she's like, "What do I do? What do I do?" And I'm like, "Well, come over to my place. I have it here. You can pick it up here. Not a problem." So she's like, so she goes, "Great, I'll be there. What's your address?" And we're on the phone for a little longer. And that's a tendency that I have a lot of times with my clients, is I'm on the phone with them for quite a bit of time, just talking about their pet and how their pet's doing and their life, and how long they've had their pet and their relationship with their pet, and we just get all involved with that. And so we were talking I was talking to this one lady, and she goes, "I just want to tell you something." I'm going, "What?" She goes, "I live in that neighborhood of Largemont, and around 5:30, 6:30, we all get our dogs and we all walk them. And we end up running into each other on the corners and all that. And we now are going to that pet store, and we all circle around your display, and we all talk about the different formulas that
Wow.
we're on using our pets. And we just sit there and we have like this whole powwow about, how's this formula working for you? How's this for? And I thought that was like so endearing, and just how beautiful the community has discovered our formulas inside that community, and they're like connected through our formulas in a
Wow.
fun way. So that's kind of, so the
Mhm.
biggest hurdle, going back to your question, is like, it was like introducing the
Yeah.
idea of
Basically
Eastern
educating the
medicine.
market because this is a new idea.
It's a whole new idea. Yeah. And that's one thing we learned at the super zoo, is like when like they had investors there. Investors were always at these events looking for the newest and greatest thing that maybe they can buy and they could invest in and all that. And we had several of those people come up to us saying, "Wow, we really like your product. We're really impressed by your product. Your design is fantastic. You're spot on with your marketing. Um, we'd like to get involved with you." And they said, "You're a disruptor to the pet wellness market.
Wow.
No one in the United States has done this sort of complex, package of, or holistic wellness for pets." And
Mm.
so it's been just a really beautiful journey in that sense. But it is like, the whole thing is like breaking that barrier of like bringing Eastern blends to the world of pets. And it's just been, it's been such a journey. It's so beautiful.
Love it, Michael. And the creation
Yeah.
of, the herbal formulas, it sounds both scientific and spiritual, right? So balancing the nature, safety, and energies in every blend. So I would love to understand like how the process unfold like behind the scene, like from herbal research to testing for quality, balance, and safety. Like how can you share like how the formulas are actually developed?
Well, we can't give away the magic behind the formulas,
Definitely,
but
yeah.
but what we can say is that, once again, like I said, like back in the Ming Dynasty,
Hmm.
hundreds and thousands of years ago, they were given their own pets this. They were given their livestock this. They were taking the Eastern blends for themselves.
Hmm.
So this is not new. This is not new to the world. So these formulas have been around for thousands and thousands of years. So it was just a matter of having a Chinese herbalist actually take the formulas and scale them down so that they worked with pets, and it's basically, we always laugh that our formulas are tested on humans, made for pets.
Wow.
Because they're all human grade formulas. People, there's no difference between our formula and the human formula. So it's just more of the difference is in the
Hmm.
way that it's distributed versus the pill. It's a liquid, so they could shoot it. They could give it to them right in the mouth, or they could put it in their food, and it makes it easy for them. So,
Wow.
so it's basically, really, these formulas being thousands and thousands of years old, and people along the way, and the herbologists that we worked with really took it and tweaked it here and there. But it's, I always go back from what I'm studying now. I'm just now looking at different classes to get in myself to understand Eastern herbs themselves, even to a
Wow.
deeper sense,
Wow.
because you got hot herbs, you have cold herbs, and they all play differently in the gut. And the whole magic behind the Eastern herbs is that it works at the root cause. and it works its way out, instead of it just being like a band-aid, it's actually gets to the root of the cause, which is
Wow.
really beautiful. And
Wow.
it's been fascinating for me to learn all this, and I just continue to learn all the time.
Love it. Love it. And how do you determine like which wellness need to focus on like when you're creating new formulas?
Um, we're really, that's one of the things I think we're kind of like set with right now is like we really sat down and we said, okay, what are the top nine formulas that,
Mm.
what are the top nine issues that pets have? It's like anxiety, they have allergy, seasonal allergies, they have pain, longevity. You have pets in their older age, they need support for their system. You
Yeah.
have urinary issues, you have appetite issues. So we really went down the line, constipation, diarrhea. So these are all like common things that they have every day. So we just kind of went down that line and just kind of did a check off, and like, and then there was a few things at the end of that list that we were like, nope, those are not really common things that are like
Yeah.
everyday things. So we
Yeah.
didn't take those. So we ended up coming with the nine formulas. People ask us if we are going to expand. Every once in a while we do. The one thing that we've done is like we've expand from domestic pets inside the house to horses. So now
Wow.
we have two of our formulas for horses, and they're just really, and that came actually from one of our pet stores. One of the owners, she had horses, and one of her horses just had, she was just
Mm.
frightened with
Mm.
the inside the barn. So
Mm.
we did the calming formula for her, and she said that at the end of it, she just has a whole new relationship with her horse,
Wow.
because when she sees her horse is not startled and nervous. It's just really calm. So
Yeah.
that's how that's how I see our brand expanding and actually bringing in other products that are out there that complement our product.
Yeah, love it, love it. And rather than replacing the veterinary care, like how do you see Eastern herbal support working alongside to conventional approaches to help pets thrive naturally?
Well, like when I started off, is like our veterinarian care is so important.
Definitely, yeah.
They're the backbone to our
Exactly, yeah.
pets'
Yeah.
wellness, and
Wow.
we're not going to we're not, we're no one, nothing's ever going to replace them. They're like our doctors for us. But what our formulas do is like, the philosophy in the East is let's not wait till you get sick. Let's keep
Yeah.
you well
Yeah.
before you get sick.
Yeah.
So if we know that you have seasonal allergy and allergies are coming, come springtime, let's start boosting up their immune system. Let's start, giving them a formula that supports them during these issues. So
Mm.
this is more supporting their issues before they really become over, before they have to go to the vet, before they get too out of, the allergies get way out of whack. So it's really, our formulas are not there to cure or treat, or you know we don't ever say that, well, we cure this or we fix this. We never
Mm.
do any of that. We
Yeah.
support it. So
Mm.
and that's the Eastern philosophy, is let's support your system before it gets sick.
Yeah.
So our wellness brands are there to support these different issues pets may have. Like if we know that a pet is going to go for a car ride and they're just nervous as hell, well, let's support that anxiety that they may have before they get in the car, and let's give them our no more drama a half hour before. So now that no more drama is inside their system, ready to support that anxiety that's going to hit them. And the moment they get
Wow.
in the car, they're not going to be hit with all that anxiety because they're just already calm, naturally calm, without any drugs or narcotics. So that's the play right there, and that's the play, like in us humans too, is like we get a choice to like take care of ourselves
Mm.
with supplements and Eastern herbs and all that ourselves before we get really sick. I actually take, one of our formulas in a pill form called the Forever Young, which is for
Wow.
longevity.
Wow.
And I've been taking that now for approximately probably about 3 years. And
Wow.
I was one of those kids that was always getting sick. I have asthma. So during wintertime, I would get a cold. And I haven't gotten sick in the last 3 years.
Wow.
And the only thing I've done differently is I've introduced Eastern, herbs to my system. And that's the only thing I can say. Oh, wow, it has to be this because normally I'd always get sick. So it's supporting you before you get sick. It's supporting your wellness, and so that's really what our Eastern blends do. Is it supports the wellness of the pet.
Love it. Love it. Michael, talking about this section is about the branding, design, and storytelling, right? So your background is obviously in design and fine art. It brings a distinct energy to the brand. So everything from packaging to your messaging like feels very intentional and heartfelt. So as a designer and a storyteller, like how do you approach branding in a way that builds emotional connection and trust with the pet parents?
It's a great question because at first, people immediately think, okay, wellness, it's got to look clinical, it's got to look like it's
Mm,
got to be really like, almost like very clinical. And I wasn't wanting it to look clinical. I
mm,
wanted it to be fun. I wanted it to be inviting because, wellness is exciting. When you have wellness in your life, you're excited, you're having fun, you're enjoying life. So it's not like
mm.
you're sick and you're like, oh my God, we're not waiting for that moment. We're there to support the wellness of the pet. So I wanted to be fun and lively and colorful and all that. And me being the artist that I am, I'm very pop art. I'm very, people who are familiar with Andy Warhol or Peter Max. I was, early on in my life
Yeah.
when I was doing art, people always said, "Oh, you're young Andy Warhol, you're young Peter Max," and it's very much my art style. It's like, very 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 fun characters and very it's very
Yeah.
sometimes very angular stuff. So introducing that, and there was some people that gave a little pushback on the design at first. They were like, oh my God, it's too fun, it's not serious enough. And I'm like, you know what, just let's let the people just
Yeah.
let's let
Let the
the
people just.
parents decide.
Yeah.
And the parents love it. The parents are like, where can I get a t-shirt? Oh my God, your characters are so cute. Your packaging, when you walk into a store, everything looks the same inside of a store. And then you have our formulas and our display, and everybody, it just pops out, and people are like, oh my God, what is this? It draws you into it versus it blending into the store. So I wanted something that was going to pop. And that's just kind of like what I do in my events. I want the wow factor. And so, when I created everything, I wanted it to be the wow factor, and people
Yeah.
people really embrace the wow factor.
Love it, love it. And Michael, like in today's crowded market, packaging and storytelling are powerful tools, right? So how do you think like how important are creative packaging and storytelling in helping pet parents understand your mission and remembering your brand?
I think it's very important. If you in today's time, there's so many things hitting the market all the time. Think about like when the CBD craze came along. I think, that was probably like 2014, 15 that it came along here in America, where everybody was like, oh, CBD, CBD. Well, I went to those conventions because I was on the seek of finding some formula for pets, so that was part of my discovery.
Hmm.
So I'd gone to a couple of those trade shows. And when I went there to those trade shows, that's one thing I noticed immediately. Like everybody's packaging was like almost the same packaging. It was like the same thing. It looked the same thing. It looked the same thing. And if you go to your local, like, grocery store, and you look at their supplement pot, most everything looks exactly the same. It just blends in. Nothing pops out. So I think, in today's times, you want to be unique. You want to be different. You want to stand out. You want to
Exactly.
stand
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah.
You don't want to fit in with everybody else. And that's kind of been my personal life. I never really fit in with everybody else. I was that loud kid. I was that loud personality. And
Hmm.
so, when people hire me to do their design of their house or their
Wow.
restaurant or their wedding or their event, they come to me not because I know how to design an event. but because I know how to give the wow factor.
Yeah.
And the wow factor is like one of my favorite things because people are surprised. They don't know what they're going to get. And when they see it, they're like, oh my God, this is so cute. This is so wonderful. It's like, my partner, we really worked on like the names of our products, like poo poo problems, camp poo poo, pee pee issues,
Yeah.
and like for our calming is like no more drama.
Yeah.
So let's get rid of that. When we first met with this Eastern doctor, it was like, allergies, calming,
Yeah.
pain. We're like, that's
Mm.
so, it's like what everybody else is doing.
It's
Let's break
doing the
away from what
market.
everybody else
Yeah.
is doing.
Got
Everybody's
it.
calling it calming. Well, let's have fun. No more drama. People are like, oh my God, how cute, and of course it says that, helps with, and, it supports their
Yeah.
wellness and anxiety and all that. So it's really just like thinking outside the box, creating the box. You have to think outside of the box to make the box beautiful.
Wow. Wow. And also tell us about your characters as well. Pico, Robertson, Rodeo, and others. Like what inspired them and like how do they reflect your brand message and of harmony and wellness?
Well, and it's, that's once again my partner and I. We like this guy right here above me, right here. This is Rodale.
Yeah.
And, Rodale has a backstory. He comes from Mexico.
Okay.
There was a girl that was with her family,
Uh-huh.
and they were from Beverly Hills, and they were there on a retreat, a holistic retreat, and they were in Mexico at this really beautiful spa. And the little girl decides she's going to venture out of the spa for a little bit, and all of a sudden she sees a bush shake, and she looks down, and all of a sudden she's like, what's there? And she looks in, and there's
Mm,
this little chihuahua sitting there
mm,
shaking, his ears are shaking, and
mm.
you know and so she's like, she had a bottle of water, she grabbed a leaf and she poured water in there. And this is all the backstory of Rodale. So each one of our characters have these incredible backstories and how they
Wow.
came to LA.
Mm,
And like Robertson, this guy right here, which is right here behind me, he grew up in Kansas City on a John Deere tractor listening to Miley Cyrus, you
wow.
know, and he's like, in his whole thing is like he wanted to come to LA to be a star. Well, his first acting gig or his first, work inside the industry was he became a print model for our product. So
Okay.
they all kind of like link
Wow.
into our product one way or another
Wow.
along the journey of Healthy Paws Herbal Labs. And so it's just like they're like this whole family of, and they all belong in a band, they all play, and so they all have these different things. So like this is so there's Robertson, that's Sunset, and up there
Wow.
that's Beverly, and that's Melrose, and then right behind me right here is Pico. So they're all LA streets.
Love it, love it. And as we're talking about the business strategy and growth, right? Healthy Paws Herbal Labs has come a long way from its early beginnings, right? Growth in the pet industry often comes from key turning points, movement that change the trajectory of a brand. So what were some of the key turning points that helped Healthy Paws Herbal Labs like grow from an idea to now it's like a trusted holistic brand?
um I would say it was from us having trust in what we were bringing to the market, us knowing what we were, the change we were bringing into the market, and
Yeah.
being able to share that change with pet parents and letting them know that this is an alternative to pet wellness. um, I'll say, I don't know. It's just been kind of like it's evolution has been just, it's taken us a while. We're a
Exactly. Yeah.
startup.
Mm,
I still
mm,
consider ourselves a startup to this
mm,
day.
mm.
Where we're still educating people. We're still getting out in front of people, educating them, because once again, when you talk about Eastern herbs with pets, they're like, what,
Mm,
and then and the biggest, our biggest sells, it's really beautiful because our biggest sell person out there is the user, our
exactly.
users.
Mm,
What's so beautiful is like when someone places an order in our website,
yeah.
I started seeing names pop up over and over. Wow, I didn't I see that name before? Didn't I see that name before? Didn't they order before? And here I'm filling the orders. We do everything here out of our office here in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And so we're filling the orders and I keep seeing these names. I'm like, oh God, I would really like to see on their order how many times they've ordered.
Yeah.
So I created a line on their on the printout that said wellness journey, and then it would have a number that would pop up every time they order, right? Well, we have people on their wellness journey that their very first time is going to say one. It's their first wellness journey with us. It's their first order with us, right?
Yeah.
And so, there I include a little more in their package, a little more, a brochure and describing things. But now we have people that are in their wellness journey. And this just happened this last month, which is so beautiful. 60.
Wow.
Where do you have a company that has someone that's on their 60th order?
Wow.
And that right there is the magic. When I put that number on the order and the printout, and now I just saw a lady the other day with 57, you know and now I see 40s and 50s and 30s all the every day when we go to fill the orders. I see ones all the time, but I see 50s and 60s
Wow.
now and 30s, and I mean they're coming back, and so it shows that we are now a trusted brand. And
Definitely.
what's interesting is, like, when you see the first order, it's usually for one product. When you see the fifth order, it's usually for a couple of products.
Hmm.
And when they're in their 60th orders, it's usually for the product that's supporting that wellness for that pet, right? But it's also, they start to add other things and they're building their wellness toolbox with our formulas. So it's like they can go to their cabinet if the pet's having diarrhea. Well, they've already got poo poo problems because that's in their wellness toolbox. They just go grab it. They give poo poo problems to their pet that has diarrhea. And okay, we're on it right away. We're not having to go scramble and go to a store somewhere and look for something. They've already got the toolbox made. And that's really the foundation of what we're seeing today, is like people are building their wellness toolbox with Healthy Paws Herbal Labs,
Wow.
herbal formulas.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
beautiful.
Definitely. Definitely. Michael,
That's pretty.
yeah, yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
You go ahead. You are the
Well, no,
guest.
I just get really excited. Like when I saw that lady when it said 60, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's ordered over 60 times.
Yeah. Mhm.
My pet stores. I have this one pet store, the pet store I was talking about earlier. Um, that's here locally. He called me up one day and he said, Michael, I have to talk to you. And I'm like, when someone says it like that, you're like, oh my God, what is he going to say? What happened?
Yeah.
And he goes, I've been in the pet store business for over 30 years, Michael, and
Wow.
I've never brought a product like yours into my store. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that, Todd? And he goes, our clients have seen such huge success that they come in and they just rave about your products to our employees.
Wow.
He goes, and the magic is the first we saw the magic with the pet being supported by these wellness blends, these herbal blends. Then we saw the pet parent finally being able to breathe because they found something that's actually working for their pets that they're starting to trust in, and they come back and they keep buying it and they really start trusting it, and they start to relax because now they know that their pet's being supported with an all natural holistic blend, right? And so they're so excited that they share this with their salespeople that they know in the store, because they get to know the people because they go to that pet store all the time. We
Yeah.
work with independent pet stores, so they're really hands-on pet stores.
Mm.
And so he goes, Michael, the magic is now that the pet parents come back in and sharing it with my staff. My staff is so excited that they're happy. They're
Yeah.
happy in my store.
Mm-hmm.
They know that they're making a difference with your product, and it
Wow.
makes them feel good. So it empowers them to even sell other products in our stores that are good for the pet as well. And so your formulas, your product has brought happiness to my employees that I've never seen before. Usually they walk around, they're like, when's my lunch? When's this? And they're
Yeah.
excited. I just spoke to one of the employees from that store
Mm.
the other day, and she goes, Michael, she goes, it's so crazy just to be able to talk to these people, because these people are just in love
Yeah.
with the wellness that their pet's getting from your brand.
Love it.
And that's the magic right there.
Mhm, mhm. And how has this positive feedback like affected your mindset? Like earlier, were you in doubt, like, how the product will perform, and like after the feedback that you got, like how did that has transformed the mindset?
Well, in the very beginning, it's like I was like everybody else. Eastern herbs, what? For
Yeah.
pets, what? Huh? What? And I was kind of like that. But then when I started, when I had taken it to my rescues that I worked with, the samples that I got, and they were calling me up going, oh my God, what is this? This works. Oh my God, this is very, where did you find this?
Mm.
And that was my first, like, I think we're onto something here. And then, then I started looking into Eastern medicine and realizing this wasn't new. This was old. This was hundreds of years old. This wasn't a new thing that someone just like, the CBD fad just came up overnight and it was brand new and everybody was running to it. No, this is something that's, hundreds and hundreds of years old. And so,
Yeah.
understanding that and knowing, like, when you walk into a health food store, what's there, you have Eastern herbs all throughout that store and people are buying it for themselves, and so you see that. So for me at first I was like, how's this going to work, is it going to work, and all that. But it was really from the very get-go. It was like once people started using it and they started telling me their experience, the right direction to go. I knew it was I had discovered the right thing,
Wow.
and chose, because I had so many people that wanted to work with me because they knew what my mission was. And so for me to find this one doctor to be able to work with him for a while
Mm.
and be able to do this, it just, it was like I was sitting there, I had to make a choice. Like I could have worked with this person. I'm like, okay,
Wow.
I like what this guy is doing, so I like this direction. This is the direction I've been looking for. And it was perfect. It was really perfect that, we went that direction, and we're really proud of it today. And it's just
Mm.
like,
Mm.
and you were talking about earlier about, our herbs and all that. Well, all our herbs comes with a certificate, that they're tested, they're third party tested. We wouldn't buy any other herbs. There's so many different, it's so easy to, you can buy herbs from all around the world, but
Yeah.
they're not, you can't trust them. You've got to, like,
Exactly. Yeah.
go to a supplier that you can trust. So that's one of the things we do, is we're really hard on making sure we have COAs
Mm.
for all our herbs when they come in. And it's I think when you build a brand with integrity,
Yeah.
and your mission is to, like, my mission was just to help pets, in a different way. And it was like, I never thought I would ever be in the pet world like I'm in the pet world now. And now, I have my own YouTube, The Pet's Journey, that I talk about
Yeah.
pets. And and it was fun during the pandemic. There was a platform here in the United States. It was there in India too. It was called Clubhouse.
Yeah. 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 Clubhouse. Yeah.
And so Clubhouse, I have folders over to my left here that I have over 400 rooms that I
Wow.
had in Clubhouse, where I was the host, and I'd bring in these guests from all around the world talking about orthopedics and talking about DNA and talking about breeding, talking about training. And so the education I got just from doing my podcast and learning from others and other professionals has been truly nothing but a gift for me. It's like, for me to be able to bring these experts onto my show and be able
Yeah.
to help people, because, like, the biggest thing I think for pet parents is, they're, probably 20, 30 years ago, they were, our pets were just pets. They were just these, running around, around us. Sit down, Charlie, calm down, whatever,
Yeah.
but they're part of our family.
Absolutely. Yeah.
you know Here in the States, they're like, there's so many young couples these days are not having kids, they're having pets. They've got pets as their family, and
Yeah,
you hear this all over the place. And you look at in Tokyo. I designed. In
exactly.
fact, when I designed that event in Malibu for the pet rescue, where this
Wow.
all started,
Mhm.
what was really cool is that the lady Yana, who owned the store that I designed the whole event after, she called me up a week later and she's like, Michael, she goes, we loved, loved what you did. We can't believe what you did. And it was called Pause for the Planet. And you can actually look it up and you can see pictures of it on Getty Images. Um, but she's like, we love, love, love what you did. She goes, would you be interested in designing a store in Tokyo for us?
Wow.
And so the next thing I found myself is I had my own private interpreter, and
Okay.
I was flying over to Tokyo, and I was selecting a location that I was going to design for Fifi and Romeo. And then I designed a store in Tokyo. But there, the girls there with their little dogs, they're like, it's like what I saw here with the people with their carriers, like Paris Hilton and all these other girls, that all these actresses that went to Yana for all their clothing and all that. The craziness that we see here, it's like a million times more
Wow.
there. I mean, when we opened up the store, there was a line, around block after block of all these girls dressed really, really cute with their little dogs and their little carriers waiting to get in to be able to buy the first thing before they were sold out. And I was just like going, I'd never seen such a fad before. And it's so, and it's funny because like they say, like in those markets, the boys are having a really hard time getting married to these girls because they're so independent and they've got their pets.
Yeah.
They're like, boys, forget the boys. I've got my companion right here that loves me unconditional,
Yeah.
and it's
Mhm.
like so beautiful. So
Mhm.
it's been
Definitely.
a really incredible journey, really.
Mhm. Mhm. And on the social media as well, like I like Instagram and all like YouTube Shorts, I see all these videos in which they are treating like dogs and cats like literally their human child, literally. And it used to be video like with their babies. Now it's the videos with their dogs, and they are treating them like literal babies.
It is so, we have, being, in California, we're right by the water. And so we have this one group where these two ladies have this one little pug, and she
Okay.
surfs. And so she's a surfer, and so she's out on the waves, and you see her, and she's surfing. This little pug, this tiny little pug about
Yeah.
this big on
Yeah.
this huge board, and she's surfing away. And and it's crazy when you see that when you go just to a local dog show here, whether it's in the park or whatever, and it's not one of those big thing. But even at the big things, you see these people with their pets, and they now color that. There's this one guy, I don't know where he's located, but he's really famous for like making the pets look like zoo animals.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, exactly. He's a
and when
pet
you see
stylist.
them,
Hmm.
yeah, he's a pet stylist, and he's got these lions and tigers. And when you look at him, they're like, wow, this guy is so talented. And
Yeah.
it's so fun. It's just the whole pet market has completely changed in the last 20 years. And so, where I was going earlier about the whole, the pet parent is like, my goal now is with my YouTube station, like with what you're doing here, is to be able to educate people and let people know that there are other tools and other options out there that were never there before. And
Yeah.
there's better ways of doing things and better ways of feeding your pet these days. No longer do you have to just go with the generic kibble that we thought, back in the early 70s, is like the okay, this is the end all. It was kind of like TV dinners for us, where they would, frozen TV dinners,
Yeah.
they had kibble for pets. So now, people are cooking for their pets, and it's so much, you know, it's really important that we talk. Like I always like to talk about this. What I'm talking about is the fact that when people cook for their pet or they give pets, real food, sometimes people are like, oh, it costs so much, but you have to look at the trajectory of the full picture of like your pet's life. If you start feeding your pet really well when they're a puppy, all the way through their life. When they get up to their golden years, guess what? They're not going to get sick like they're going
Yeah.
to get sick if
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
eating just that junk food.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they're just eating fast food, I call it kibble, fast food, let's say, right? If they're
Yeah.
just eating fast food all the time, there's no nutrition. They're getting the same thing every single time that they're eating. And it's really just filled with a lot of starches and a lot of corns and a lot of just, so there's, when you cooking them real food, they're getting protein and nutrition from so many different sources that it's supporting their system in a way that they've never been supported before. So our pets are healthier today just by the fact that people are learning that there's better ways to feed their pets.
Definitely, definitely. Michael, talking about the marketing itself, what marketing approaches have helped you most, effectively educate pet parents about holistic wellness and natural support option? Like, what is the best marketing channels that you have right now?
Well, if you're asking about like marketing for conversions, like, what do we do for conversions to get sales? Then that
Yeah,
would be
the
something
first one
like
will be
Google.
marketing for conversion, or the second one will be like, the effectively educating the pet parent.
Yeah, so the first one would be like, Google's an obvious one. Let's do Google ads, let's do
Yeah.
ads on the internet, on
Mhm.
Facebook and all those. And those really, with it's interesting because like I look at those and those are not necessarily, yeah, they're marketing in the sense of like this is what people do to sell their products, right?
Mhm.
But what our ads are really doing is they're actually showing the pet parents that there's something else out there. We're like saying, come take a look. Just come take a look at our formulas, and there's something different that you can choose from because they don't know that we're out there. There's so many people still in America, that don't know we're there yet. There's
Exactly. Yeah.
millions, how many hundreds of millions of people do we have in, the United States? It's like, how can we touch every pet parent?
Mhm.
You have to have a marketing budget that's so enormous, and we're
Exactly.
just a we're just a we're just a small little boutique startup that we,
Mhm.
we're all bootstrapped. So that, and then the biggest thing for me is like the second biggest marketing for us are our pet parents.
Exactly.
I can't tell.
Basically, word
Yeah,
of
I
mouth
can't.
marketing.
Yep, I've got so many people that they say, "Oh my God, I got your formula. I told my neighbor." In fact, I just talked to this one lady the other day and she's like, "Oh, I've got to go see my friend. She's older and she's, going in the hospice and I'm really upset." And and this is my relationships with my clients. I'm talking to my clients like this, right? They're talking about their best friend, you
Yeah.
know, how did we get here? It's relationship building and just trusting, just embracing, what we do and having those conversations with people. And so I've gotten really close with my clients and she's telling me, "Oh yeah, this lady, she goes, oh my God, you know what, Michael?" And I'm like, "What?" She goes, "She's the one that told me about you." you know and I just looked at her. She just placed, she just placed another order the other day and she's on her 30th order.
Wow.
So here somebody told her about us, and she doesn't buy one product, she buys three products. And so it's like our clients, they're our best word of mouth.
Absolutely.
They're out there and because they were starving for something like this. They were looking for
Mhm.
something like
Mhm.
this and they
And now
didn't
they
know it was
can't
out
stop
there.
talking about it.
Exactly. And it's
Mhm.
so beautiful. It's so, so beautiful. And it's like, I got a call, yes, 3 days ago from this gentleman up in Northern California. And he was asking about one of our formulas that he had bought. And he actually said, "Well, I heard all about you, and I had to drive an hour one way just to go get your formulas from the pet store that carried it," right? Because he lived in a rural area in Northern California. And then he had to drive an hour back. So he took a 2-hour trip to go get our formula.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I'm like, "Well, maybe if you want to save that drive next time, you can order online and we can deliver it to your front door.
Yeah.
And he laughed, but it's just like, but those are the stories and those are the people that are just so excited because he heard about our formula and here he got in his car and drove an hour to go get it and an hour back to so that he had it for his dog because his dog, it's his family.
Love it. Love it. Michael,
Yeah.
for someone who might be listening to this podcast, they are pet brand founders. listening, communicating about natural products. Like, what do you think? Like, what advice would you share with other founders who are trying to communicate about holistic wellness products in a clear, compliant, and like trustworthy way?
I would say keep it simple.
Yeah.
Keep it really simple because like for us, we were introducing something that was completely new to the people in America. When
Mm.
you talk about, they're like Eastern wellness, what? Huh? You can't get into like the minutia of what it really is. You have to keep it really simple because
Mm.
if you give them too much information, they'll go, what? And they'll get too nervous about it. And they think
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
bigger than it. They'll think it's way bigger than it is. And it's really simple. It's
Mm.
just nature's choice to keep us well.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And also tell us about the new pet parent kit and your one for one rescue program. Like, what inspired these initiatives, and like what kind of difference are you seeing in the rescue community because of that?
Well, because I work with so many rescues,
Yeah.
I I wanted to be able to give back to them at the same time I was doing what I'm doing. And I'm like, how can I do this? And
Mm.
so every time I would work with a rescue, I would ask them, what are the issues that you see that,
Mm.
people that are rescuing pets from your rescue encounter on the way home when they get the pet home? What's going on with them? And they're like, going, well, the biggest one is like, if they don't change their food properly, the pet's going to get diarrhea. And that's the number one thing that we see all the time is that we get these phone calls. Well, I ran out of that food, or I thought that food, I just went to the pet store and saw this other food, and I thought this other food was going to be better. So I didn't use the food you gave me to transition, so they don't go through that transition period and the
Yeah.
pet gets diarrhea. So then I'm like going,
Mm.
oh, poo poo problems is something that would be really beneficial for them. And then I'm like, well, what's another thing that, the pet parents experience with their new pet that they adopt? And they
Mm.
go, well, the pet, is full of anxiety. Here they're leaving a loud, noisy place with all these other dogs and animals barking and all this, and they've been trapped. They've been in this little pen for how many, we don't know how long they've been in there,
Exactly.
and all of a sudden now they're on their way home in this car that they don't even know this car. They don't know these people, and they're wondering, where am I going now? So then I'm like, oh my gosh. So the they're having anxiety. They're having like, it's stressful for them. Well, that's calming.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's our two formulas that would be great for new pet parents to have. So I created the new pet parent kit, and I'm gonna jump back here real quick and grab one real quick.
Yeah, definitely.
And so this here is our new pet parent kit. And so it comes with a pre-filled syringe of the poo-poo problems and a
Wow.
pre-filled syringe of the no more drama. So there's two syringes in here already pre-filled that when the so we donate these to the pet rescues, and when people rescue a pet, this is the
They
new
get.
pet parent kit that goes home with them. So in case the pet gets anxiety on the car ride, they can actually give it to them as they're rescuing the pet before they get in the car, and the pet will be calm for the drive. Or even like when they get to the new environment, maybe for the first few days, calm the pet naturally. And then if they make the mistake that most pet parents do and not change the food properly, because there's like a 7-day process of transferring from one food to another food. So
Wow.
they'll get diarrhea, then they have the poo poo problems right there. Then they don't have to go run out and figure out, what am I going to do with the diarrhea? Am I taking the pet to the vet or whatever? So this is our new pet parent kit. And what my goal is, like, every time someone buys one of our formulas for their pets at their home, I actually at the end of the month make a number of like how many cells we have, and then we make these, and these get distributed to our pet rescues that we work with so that
Wow.
they have them to hand out. And so that's
Wow.
our new pet parent kit.
Love it. Love it. I got,
Well,
looking. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
yeah, this, I do this, sorry. But it's like one of the most magical things about this
Yeah.
that's coming out of this, and we didn't even think about this, is that we were doing, now we get asked to do all these celebrity events. You know, at first they came at us and they're like, we're going to charge you $4,000 to do this event. We're going to charge you this to be here for the Oscars, for the Emmys, and all this, right? And I'm like, I don't pay. I don't
Yeah,
want to pay. I'm
yeah,
like, if I'm going to pay money, I'm going to donate it to one of my rescues. I'm going to build new pet parent kits with the money. I'm not going to spend $4,000 to stand in
exactly.
the air to say, here we are, you know?
Yeah,
And so eventually they just really started to see the
the
impact what
impact.
we have.
Mm.
You know, when we're at these shows and all of a sudden the celebrities come to us, we're taking pictures with all these celebrities, and but we're starting to help other pets. And so then they keep coming back and they want to see us. And if we're not there, then they go to the event producer, like, where's Healthy Paws Herbal Labs?
Wow,
Where are they? They're not here, you know?
wow,
And then they call us up. You got to be at our next one. You got to be at our next event, you know, our next Oscar event or whatever. And so now we have a whole bunch of events that we go to during the Oscars, during the Emmys, during the
wow,
Grammys, and we're there. And so we were in Sundance Film Festival, which is
wow,
in Utah.
wow.
So we loaded up our car, put all our stuff in there, drove all the way to Utah from LA, which is about, good, 10, 12 hours.
Crazy.
And when we were there, we decided we'd just check out the beautiful hotel that was there. The St. Regis is like one of the best hotels there, and
Wow.
Sundance Film Festival. And then you got stars walking around. You can imagine the streets buzzing. And they had the biggest snowfall they've had in so long. It was just beautiful. But we walked in this hotel, and all of a sudden I'm looking at the hotel, and I'm looking at and I have these, and I'm passing these out wherever I go, just to pass them out so that people have them, that have dogs that are there for the Sundance Film Festival. And I'm like, you know what? We should talk to the concierge of the hotel.
Yeah.
And I talked to the concierge of the hotel, and he goes, and I showed him this, and he goes, "Oh my God, we've been looking for something to put into our gift baskets for the pet parents that come to our hotel.
Wow.
Marketing.
Yeah.
This is now, I'm now revamping this to become a gift that hotels can now put in the gift basket for the pet. Because once again, let's talk about it. It's like the pet's in the hotel and they've got anxiety. So what's going to calm them is the no more drama. What if the pet gets into something at the hotel and they start to get diarrhea? That's the worst place we want our pet to have diarrhea. So instantly you've got something that's going to stop the diarrhea.
Wow. Hmm.
So this is like the perfect pet, gift inside of a gift bag for a hotel to give. And nowadays pets, they have their own hotel rooms, let alone,
Exactly.
travel, on new, now there's airlines that are just for pets, it's so beautiful what's going on.
Exactly, exactly. And Michael, finally, looking towards the future, like Healthy Paws Herbal Labs, like it feels more like a brand, right? It's becoming a movement around like mindful, natural pet care, right? So looking ahead, like what's your long-term vision for Healthy Paws Herbal Labs, and like what kind of legacy do you hope to leave in the holistic pet world space?
Well, my future vision for it is that one, everybody knows that we're here and
Yeah,
knows that we have these wellness formulas to support their pets' wellness before they get sick. That's the whole thing. It's like we're here. You know, the more people that know about us, that means the more pets are being helped.
exactly.
Um, so that would be my biggest goal, is like just so that everybody just knows that we're here and that there's an alternative to Western medicine. And right now we're just in the United States. I've got people in Canada that keeps asking me, when are you coming to Canada?
Oh,
UK, they keep asking me, when are you coming to UK?
oh,
Everybody's asking me around the world,
yeah,
when are you coming to our country? So we're eventually going to expand to all the, around the world. So it'll be an international brand. And from there, it's like what I was talking about earlier, and it was talking about the future of Healthy Paws Herbal Labs is like, I see the brand just like becoming an educational place for people. It's not just product, it's language, it's understanding, it's education. It's like, what are the best tools out there for my pets, And, it's like I bring, like when on my podcast, I'll bring, like, I have this one gentleman, he's in Colorado, and he specializes in pets, um, um, orthopedics.
Wow.
And he told me something that was mind blowing one time on one of my podcasts that I just think is so important that every pet parent knows is like, every pound that your pet is overweight, it's adding 4 extra pounds of shear pressure on their joints.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if they're overweight by 10 pounds, you're adding 40 pounds of shear pressure on those joints that weren't designed to
Definitely.
carry those extra 40 pounds. So one of the biggest key, takeaways from that is like, you really want your pet to be in the best shape, and there's different programs, there's different, there's called, you could go online and say, pet weight scale, and there's like different scales out on the internet that you can see, and you really want your pet to have like this little hourglass. So it's like, so that's what I see for Healthy Paws Herbal Labs in the future, is like that we're not just a product, we're
Yeah.
not just a
Yeah.
brand, we're a go-to place where people know that they can find a solution for an issue that they have with their pet, or, look at the future of like, hey, I don't know what to feed my pet. What should I feed them? How can I find out information? And we can point them in the right direction to find that information. If we don't have it, we can actually point them to places that, can educate them. So I just see that it's really just, for me, it's like, I've spent the last 6 years building this brand,
Yeah.
and just really just nonstop, doing events, fine tuning,
Hmm.
getting into the Grammys, getting into the Oscars and all that
Wow.
with the brand. That was big for us to be able to be invited to these
Absolutely.
salons,
Absolutely.
and now that we have one company, like when they call us, they're like, okay, this is our date for the Oscars. You can make it, right? They like, you can make it, right? And if we can't make it, then they're like, everybody's going to be so upset that you're not there. And it's true. They get
Wow.
so upset that we're not there because they're looking for us, because they saw us like last year, and they've been, and we hand away free, samples, or, if the pets have a certain issue, we hand away one of the products and all that to them, because it's like, yeah, they have a voice themselves, but it's about taking care of the pet. And so that's my biggest takeaway, my legacy from this is just like, I want to be able to be known that we are just helping pets all around the world
Wow.
live
Wow.
their best life.
Wow. Definitely. Definitely. Michael, and last question from my end. Like as a creative, like you have always found ways to expand your vision, right? Like, through partnership, characters, art, and education, right? So how have your design, characters, and storytelling evolved into like something larger through partnership, community projects, or like education initiatives?
This is really, really, I'm glad you asked that question. Let me see here.
Yeah.
So here's a magazine. Okay.
Mhm.
And we met this lady at one of our Oscar shows that we did.
Okay.
And when she found us, she was like, wow, I love what you guys are doing. And I really respect what you guys are doing. I'm going to give you a full ad in our magazine so
Wow.
that I can spread the word for you. So I created this ad, and she goes, Michael, she goes, but I want to give you another page. What would you do if I gave you another page? Right. And so I'm sitting there with my partner, Serge, and we're thinking, and we're at dinner with her, and we're like, oh, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go ahead and create a comic strip.
Wow.
So it's this endless like this. So then we created this whole comic strip for her. So we have our ad on one page, and then our comic strip on the other. And we have 6 series of the comic strip now inside of her magazine.
Hmm. Wow.
So it's things like that, and it's all educational. Once again, it's bringing education to the pet parent, making it fun. Wellness, wellness should be fun. We do want, for ourselves and for our pets, we want wellness.
Hmm.
So why not make it fun and have fun at being well instead of being sick and grumpy and blah, 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 let's be fun with our wellness. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of like my end goal with everything is like,
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be clinical. It doesn't have to be sterile. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be pharmaceutical looking. That's the last thing we want to look like. We're just an herbal blend company that's bringing wellness to support your pet's wellness.
Exactly, exactly. Like, what do you think? Like, where does this creativity comes from to you? Like, do you feel like this is just like you have a natural talent for it, or it's something that has evolved over time?
No, I was like as a kid, I was one of those kids that was bouncing off the walls, and my parents were
Okay.
like, "What are we going to do with this kid? We don't know what to do with him." And then, one of my teachers wrote home, "Michael's a pain in the classroom. He bugs everybody. He won't sit still, but give him an art project and he's
Yeah.
brilliant." And so my mom started me, giving me art projects, and I was, and I've done just incredible pieces of art. And,
Mm.
one of the things along my way is like, I always like I would create these art pieces and people were like going, "How the hell did you come up with that? How the hell did you do that?" And one of the things I created, which for me was a turning point in my art career, is I designed this piece here. And
Wow.
this was for a client and it's 10 feet tall. And it turns and it has fire and it has water, has all the elements of the earth, and it's called Universal Life. And I built this
Wow.
for a client for her husband for his memorial service at a life celebration at their property because he had passed away.
Wow.
And this is a big client in Beverly Hills. And when I built this and I took it to the company that helped me build it, they looked at me and they're like, the first thing they said to me, they go, "Michael, what engineering school did you go to?" And I'm like, "I didn't." They're like, "No, you had to have gone to an engineering school to build this piece, to design this the way you design this." And I'm like, "No, I didn't. I was born with this gift of design, and
Wow.
it's always been there with me." So it's like when I see something, if I know that I'm going to design, let's say, a big wedding for a celebrity, or like during Christmas, I do Christmas trees for the stars, for the celebrities. And so they're not little Christmas trees, they're big Christmas tree. Like I've designed for
Exactly. Yeah.
Kathy Hilton. Yeah, I've done
Wow.
like Kathy Hilton. I've done Drew Barrymore. I've done like these, the spellings trees, that, so I've done all these different celebrities. And when I design these trees, they're like 30 feet tall and they're like animated and they have things flying around them. And people are like, "How the hell do you?" It's just something that I was born with. It's a gift and it just gives me this. So I feel like, where does it come from? It kind of like I channel it.
Okay.
It comes through me. It's like it's not me. It's like if I have a design project and I don't, when I first meet the client, I'll ask them a bunch of questions and then I'll just leave it alone and I'll wait for a couple of days and then all of a sudden it will just
It
come to
all
me and I'm
comes to
like,
you.
"Okay, yeah."
Crazy.
And, and that's where the magic begins.
Love it, love it. Michael, guys, that brings us to the end of today's episode of the Pet Bread Podcast. Michael, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your journey with Healthy Paws Herbal Labs.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time today and thank you for
One of the
asking me.
worst, one of the worst and entertaining episode, really. And to our audience, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow pet lovers or pet brand founders who will find it helpful. You can learn more about Healthy Paws Herbal Labs by visiting their website or follow them on social media. I will leave all the links in the description below. You can check it out. And yeah, I'm Varnit, your host, and this has been another episode of Pet Brand Podcast, where we uncover the stories behind the world's most inspiring pet brands. Thanks for tuning in, and I will catch you in the next episode.